Good morning, viewers. I am Dr. Suhas Roy, Associate Professor in Economics, Bethuadahari College. Today, we are going to learn some basic concepts in economics. You know, economics is a science where unlimited wants are managed by limited resources. So, we have to know some behaviors of different stakeholders in economics. The first stakeholder is consumer, and the second, the producer, and third, the factors of productions. We shall proceed today towards consumers. The first thing is to learn the economic students is to learn consumer behavior. Who is a consumer? Who is a consumer is a basic question. A person or an organization who consumes is a consumer. It is very simple. But what does it mean by consumption? Consumption is a process where utility vanishes gradually. Utility is being withdrawn from the product we consume. After consumption, only scraps, which is utilityless, is the remainder. Thus, consumption is a process by which a consumer obtains utility and left the scrap, which is utilityless. Thus, actually, what does the consumer? Consumer consumes the utility of the product. Now, we are going to learn what is production. Production is just the reverse process of the consumption. Production is actually creation of utility. Production is a process in which utility is created. Suppose we are observing some chemical materials from which a product is produced. The chemicals do not have individually any utility for the human, but when the chemical product is produced, then its utility occurs. Suppose we have a wooden log. It has no use to us. But when it is transformed into a chair or a table, it has a utility to us. Similarly, we do not have any utility of raw cotton, raw petroleum, but when it is processed in the form of consumable, then its utility is produced. Production can be of three types. Number one, agricultural production. What change is produced? We are sowing paddy and we are getting paddy. There is no difference. But there exists a difference. What difference? Difference is it has multiplied in quantity. We have sown a handful of paddy, but we are getting a 2 sacks of paddy. Thus, the transformation, but the transfer or the change is in the nature of quantitative. And second second type production is industrial production, in which an iron becomes a car. A pig of iron becomes a car or weapon or etc. Weapon has its utility, car has its utility, but the pig of iron has no utility to us. Thus, what happens is the qualitative transformation has occurred here. Similarly, spatial changes, spatial transformation is also important. It is another type of production. Suppose coal, naturally we find coal under the earth. Coal remaining in the earth has no utility to human. But when it is uplifted into in the earth crust, when we can it use as a fuel, then the coal has get its utility. Similarly, a person producing tomatoes in a village where many cultivators produce the same thing, the farmer does not get any price there in his, for tomato in his village. But if he takes it out where tomato is scarce, tomato is not produced, if he goes to the town or cities or metropolitans, tomato has price. Then it is also special change due to which its utility increases. Thus, creation of utility is production. So, transport is a mode of production where special changes, special SPATIL, special means difference of spaces. Special changes occur and it is called transport or mining. Thus, we have seen there are three types of production. One, agricultural production, where quantitative increase is happened, and in second case, industrial production, where we see qualitative changes, and in third, transport and mining, where special changes are occurred. Thus, now we are going to point what is demand. What is demand? We are reading economics. Economics is a science of need. What is need? Need is nothing but a thirst for utility. A thirst for utility, getting utility. And we have many types of needs. Some basic needs, just food, shelter, clothes, etc. All these are needs. Now, we are going to elaborate a special terminology which is called demand. Demand is an effective need supported by the purchasing power of the consumer. Effective need for a product supported by its purchasing power by a consumer. What does it mean? Suppose I earn rupees 10,000 for a month, and I want my need is to buy a Mercedes-Benz car. It is impossible, quite impossible. Thus, it cannot be my demand. How? Because I do not have purchasing power of a Mercedes-Benz car. So, it is not an effective demand for me. Effective demand is that which I can purchase by my income, by my financial opulence. Now, demand, thus we have seen what is demand. Demand is need for a product at a given price supported by its purchasing power by the consumer. When we say Rambabu's demand for potato is 2 kg per week, 2 kg per week at the rate of rupees 20 per kg. More specifically, we can mention the name of the market. Rambabu's demand for potato is 2 kg per week at the price rupees 20 in Calcutta market. Then in 2020, February 2020. Thus, it has some meaning, exact meaning to the economists. Where it is in Calcutta. Time in February 2020. And for which time period, span of the time, in a week. Price rupees 20 per kg. How much? It is 2 kg. Thus, Rambabu's effective demand is 2 kg at the price rupees 20. Now, when we calculate demand or we discuss demand, two major variables are there. Number one, price, rupees 20, and how much quantity demanded. How much demanded. That is another variable. So that is 2 kgs. Now we can draw a graph in a quadrant where in the vertical axis we can measure price, and in the horizontal axis we can measure quantity demanded. Thus we get a curve for different prices for different quantity demanded. Thus we can draw Rambabu's demand curve in a quadrant, and it is generally found it is a downward sloping curve. For a normal person, for a rational person, for an economic person, demand curve is generally downward sloping. Why does it so? There are several logics behind that. Number one is law of diminishing marginal utility. What does it mean? Law of diminishing marginal utility states that a consumer, when consumes more and more of a particular commodity, then the utility derived from every extra unit of the product diminishes. This extra unit consumption for extra unit of the product is nothing but marginal utility. Thus, the marginal utility diminishes as we consume more and more. Thus, when Rambabu's demand for potato is 2 kg at the rate of 20, when it is 10, Rambabu can purchase more because Rambabu is not now ready to give rupees 20 for purchasing more. He is ready to give rupees 20 per kg and he purchases only 2 kgs. If we want to convince him to purchase more, then he will ask us to lower down your price. Unless you lower down your price, I will not purchase more. Now, if Rambabu is to purchase 3 kg per week, then we have to lower down the price at least rupees 15 per kg. Number 1. Number 2, substitution effect. Substitution effect, what is that? When we see a particular commodity is getting cheaper and cheaper, then we try to use cheaper product more rather than the dearer one. When we get brinjal in the winter at rupees 10, then we purchase brinjal more. We substitute other vegetables. And use more and more brinjals because brinjal is now cheaper. On the contrary, when in the summer brinjal is rupees 40 per kg, then we try to use less of it and purchase the cheaper, which is lady's finger or other gourd, etc. Other vegetables. Again, this is substitution. The consumer has a tendency to use cheaper goods more rather than dearer ones. Thirdly, income effect. When a reduction in price of a commodity reduces, then the real income of the consumer increases. Suppose my precision was rupees 20 per kg tomato. But when we went to the market, we saw that it is now only rupees 10 per kg. Then my plan was to purchase 1 kg of tomato. Then I have rupees 20 for spending on tomato. But I found that the prices has gone down and it is available only at rupees 10 per kg. Now, I can purchase 2 kgs of tomato, but I don't show. What I do, I purchase 1.5 kg of tomatoes and spend rupees 15 on tomatoes. I have bought more than what I thought, but even I saved rupees 5 here. Thus, a reduction in price always makes me richer in real terms. The real income increases and the consumer, due to higher income, purchase more. Thus, when we find a tendency that a consumer purchases more and more when price is lowered, and the vice versa, that is, when prices increase, the consumer purchases less and less. Thus, there is a relation between prices and quantity demanded in terms of demand. Now, this is called demand, law of demand. Thus, law of demand, if we say in terms of economics, then we have to say other things remain constant. If a price of a commodity goes down, the consumer demands more and more, and when the price of a product increases, the consumer purchases less and less. This inverse relationship between the price and quantity demanded is the essence of the law of demand. In general cases, in natural cases, in ordinary cases, this holds good and it is universally true. But there are some exceptions. In the next lecture, we shall go to the exceptions where the law of demand does not hold. Thank you. Meet you again.